It's the radio guy, Mike Prince. Welcome to a special episode here of the Mike Prince Show. We are fortunate to have on the line with us right now the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. That's none other than Dr. Charles McClelland. How you doing today, sir?
Doing well, Mike. Appreciate you having me on your show.
All right. We appreciate having you on. And let me first start off by saying you've come out the gate running, and congratulations on a job well done thus far, man.
Hey, appreciate it. You know, we still have a lot of work to do. We're going to keep our nose to the grindstone and build it one brick at a time. But I can tell you, finishing my first year, it'll be a year September 1. I'm extremely excited about the future opportunities and the future possibilities. The Southwestern Athletic Conference brand is, 99 years old, well respected within the industry, and I'm overly excited and very pleased with the reception that we've gotten over the past 11 months. So as I said in other shows and I've said publicly, I'm 100% confident that we're going to be able to achieve all of our goals and objectives, and that is for the Southwestern Athletic Conference to be the elite conference, not just on the field but off the field. And we've gotten a lot of help, got a lot of support, and I'm very excited to be here, and I'm very excited about the future.
Well, yes, sir. Well, I told you when you first got here, I said, man, I'm not going to bombard you. I know you got enough of that being pulled and tugged on. I said, I'm going to give you about a year, and we're going to come back and revisit. And then within that year, man, I know when you're in the driver's seat, it seems fast, and it seems like, wow, it's a year already. But there have been a lot of things accomplished, and not that we're going to beat up on the old administration, but you inherited somewhat of a I'm not going to call it a train wreck, but a minor accident. How about that?
Well, I like to say that they left me with a lot of low-hanging fruit. And what we've been trying to do is capitalize on picking that low-hanging fruit. We did have some financial issues, which we've gotten corrected. We will finish this year. Actually, the fiscal year ends Friday. We will finish with a balanced budget, which is the first time in many years. We've renewed our commitment with some of our sponsors. We're going to be able to announce here in the future some other major sponsors. So we're going to try to keep the press releases rolling in the summer to kind of let everybody know what we're doing, just to let them know we're not sitting here twiddling our thumbs. Coming out of the meeting, we've been able to solidify our football championships for the future. And we're working on solidifying the permanent sites for football. And I shouldn't say permanent because, permanent means forever. Nothing is forever. But, my philosophy is you got to get somewhere, stay and build. And whatever we do for football and basketball and consequently baseball, we got to get somewhere, we got to stay, and we got to build it up. So we've been working on those things as well. So we'll do some continued releases throughout the summer. But cleaning up, is part of what my background has been. When I came to Prairie View, we were 0-88 in football and hadn't won any championships. And when we left, Prairie View was rolling. Coming into Texas Southern, had a lot of problems there when we left. Texas Southern is rolling. So coming into the Southwestern Athletic Conference is not anything that we had not seen previously. Just need to get in, roll your sleeves up. And again, I've been pleasantly surprised as to what we found and as to where we are and as to what our trajectory is for the future.
Well, that's what you had just mentioned earlier, that there was some low-hanging fruit, and that is the sign of a good thing. So, or you said even though on the surface, and a lot of time people on the outside looking in see what the surface is, or they can speculate what they think the surface is revealing to them. Are you saying it was a lot better shape than what appeared to be, and you still did have some work to do, or was it, what was that terminology, the low-hanging fruit?
I'm not necessarily saying that. I guess ultimately what I'm saying is for us to take a multi-year deficit, turn it around in a year, meant that there were a lot of things there that we could touch, that we could turn into an extreme positive. Different administrations managed different ways. I'm an accountant by trade. I'm cheap by nature. So, being able to come in and tighten the belt up and making some of the deals, a lot of the contacts that I've made through my 19 years of being in athletics administration helped us go to the NCAA and say, give us another shot at managing these programs, which they did. Fortunately, I was able to get selected to serve on the men's basketball committee, Division I basketball committee, open up other doors for the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Gave us a fair level of credibility because you just don't get on that committee. So if they selected the commissioner from the SWAC to serve on the most powerful basketball committee in collegiate athletics, then obviously they must have something positive going on there in the conference office, which opens up sponsorship opportunities, open up television opportunities, open up a lot of the doors that had been closed. But again, the fruit was there. It was low hanging. The only thing we had to do was just open the door up and pick up, some of those pieces and store it from a standpoint of, this is who Charles McClelland is. This is what Charles McClelland stands for. Go look at the previous 19 years of the way that we've done business, and this is the way that we're going to do business in the future. And a lot of entities have been very receptive to that approach. So that's what I mean by low-hanging fruit. Taking some of the issues that we had, being able to attack them, turn them around, ask for help, and receive the help that people are trying to give us.
Okay, we're speaking right now with Dr. Charles McClelland of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. I'm going to share one word with you, brother. Get away from the word cheap. You are economically conscious. That's the word we want to use. That sounds better.
Well, you can use that, but you got to know who you are. You got to, to be true to yourself, right?
Oh yeah, I'm not saying don't be true, but economically conscious sounds better.
Well, economically conscious sounds better. I give you that, but my wife calls me cheap, so I've embraced it. I don't.
Yes, sir. Hey, to thy own self be true. Yes, sir.
There you go.
Now we talked about the television opportunities that are being presented, which just been announced with the 13 games that are going to be afforded through the Southwestern Athletic Conference. It's been strategically laid out where every team will at least have one opportunity to get on this platform. With the presentation that we've received about the scheduling, is that the way of the future as far as the platforms are concerned, or was this something that we had to take advantage of some of that quote-unquote low-hanging fruit to get in where you fit in until you can adjust your situation?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I want to get out of the SWAC Digital Network, especially when it comes to football and basketball. So in working with ESPN, previously our relationship with them, we had a contract, but there were some things in the contract that we had not fulfilled. And the Thursday night really has been the biggest obstacle. A lot of schools don't want to move their games from Saturday to Thursday. And as you can see, we were extremely successful in getting some Saturday games. But you have to go with the network that they have available. Now, keep in mind, ESPN views ESPN3 as a network. So ESPN3 is a network, ESPNU is a network, 2 regular ESPN News. So as we try to go through these, we have to be able to choose networks. So the ESPN3 really is a network that we as the Southwestern Athletic Conference can get on with quality games. And that was another piece that we talked about. We want to be able to deliver quality content. As we increase our brand, as we strengthen our brand, and as we let everybody know what our brand is all about, we can no longer have football games where you pan the stands and nobody is in the stands. You mentioned earlier that says that, we took criticism. It looked like that Prairie View, Jackson, and Southern, kind of got the fair majority of the games. But when you look at it, it started off with Prairie View and Jackson State on Thursday night. We announced that game first time that we've been in the ESPN release at the beginning of the year. And I want to say a major thank you to Fred Washington for working with the Southwestern Athletic Conference and getting that done. That opened up the door. But again, that was a game that ESPN wanted. But when you look at Southern appears on this schedule 3 times, and obviously they have the Bayou Classic, which means that they're going to be on television 4 times. Jackson State is going to be on television 4 times. Prairie View is going to be on television 4 times. Grambling is going to be on television 3 times. And if you go down and if you look, We got everybody on. Alcorn is on there 3 times as well. So we tried to get matchups that the network wanted, matchups that we were going to be able to deliver, and matchups that met that criteria that says that we want games on TV that people are going to be able to, to show that brand. We didn't get them all on. There are some games on there that we would have liked to have on. But based upon the time slots, based upon what ESPN gave us, we went from 1 game last year, and then we added 2 or 3 others once I got here that we produced ourselves, to a full slate of games starting August 1st and really ending December 7th. So the one thing that I can tell the fan base that we're going to be concentrating on are those criteria. We want to get on ESPN. We want to get primetime slots, and we want to highlight games that's going to advance the brand of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. So, there are some games, and we work hand in hand with ESPN. So when you have this amount of games, there are going to be teams that are going to get multiple opportunities to be shown. There is no bias other than the bias that's coming from the conference office is we're going to work with ESPN based upon what they want to deliver to their audience, coupled with the fact that we want people in the stands. So if you want more games on ESPN, I would urge all fans to go support their teams, buy their tickets, create a wonderful atmosphere, and I promise you 100% we'll get those games on television.
We're talking right now with Dr. Charles McClelland of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Man, you said so much, and I'm going to try to keep up with you if I can. Revisiting when you said ESPN views ESPN3 as a network, and you're getting away from football games on the SWAC Digital Network. With that being said, one would argue that they're both typically the same platform as how the content is delivered. And what's the difference between one and the other if one is your ownership and the other is more like a lease? How do you respond to that?
There's a huge difference. One, as you know, with smart television, all of those games are able to be shown. The SWAC Digital Network crashes. The SWAC Digital Network skips. The SWAC Digital Network is unreliable. As a matter of fact, part of the issue of us even being able to get our games on ESPN3 was the fact that we could not handle the content through SWAC Digital Network. So, yes, you own the content, but when you can only get 10 people on to watch it because if too many people jump on it, it crashes, then that's a major issue. But keep in mind, and I know I might not have said this on your show, but if people have been tracking what I've been talking about, this is all about brand recognition. Brand recognition brings sponsorship dollars. Sponsorship dollars gets us out of the deficit, which means that I distribute money back to the schools. The best way to get that is on ESPN, not on SWAC Digital Network. So if we have to spend resources to be able to produce a quality game, get it out there to the masses, we're going to do it via ESPN. We're not going to do it SWAC Digital Network. When people log on, the normal, not just the SWAC fan, but the normal fan, when they go on their smart TV and they're looking at the ESPN lineup, we're on there. We're not going to get that on the SWAC Digital Network. And there are a couple of other things that some people that are technologically savvy may or may not know. But a lot of the content that's on ESPN3 is 4K. When you log on and you go through ESPN and Apple TV and all of these various platforms, if that game is shot in 4K, you're getting it on your 4K TV. If you cut your TV on ESPN, just your regular high-definition TV, even if it's 4K, the majority of the content is not delivering in 4K. So it gives us that ability to be able to keep up with the technology. It gives us the ability to be able to deliver it to a wider audience, and it gives us the bandwidth to be able to facilitate any and everybody that wants to be able to watch those games. And again, when you start talking about platforms, you get your smart TV, you put it on ESPN3, then now you're able to watch that football game in 4K with the masses. So there's a significant amount of difference between delivering content on SWAC Digital Network and delivering it on ESPN3.
Okay, and with that, I heard you make mention about if we're going to invest to be on, we're going to invest to the ESPN. Is there, I guess, a production cost for these games to be on that platform?
That's a cost for everything, Mike. Nothing in today's society is free.
No, I understand that. I mean, when
Yeah.
I ask, without, I
Yes.
guess, getting in
Yeah. Without
particulars.
question, there's a cost.
Okay,
Everything, every game. Yes, there's a cost.
okay, and so, and the one thing about it, I'm just trying to answer some of the questions that I asked at me. If we could invest in a better upgrade as far as the digital network, so is that digital network going to fade altogether, or are there other plans for it in future projects?
Yeah, we think that there's a platform for the digital network. As we did last year, we were able to bring all of our Olympic sport championships. We brought the soccer championship, indoor track championship finals. We did the semifinals for baseball, which we hope to extend to ESPN3. So there's a place for the SWAC digital network. But when you're talking about bringing in a cost of $25,000-$30,000 to produce a game, are you going to put that on SWAC Digital Network, or are you going to produce that to put it on ESPN3? I think the answer is ESPN3. So when the SWAC Digital Network is no more than an outside entity coming in, placing it on our website. So if we don't have the bandwidth, if we don't have the IT people, if we don't have all of that working, if we get 10, 12, 15,000 people, that thing is going to crash. And we even saw some of that during the softball tournament this year, and we didn't even have those numbers on there. So it's a combination. And I'm not saying the outside company is, what they're bringing is just the entire infrastructure is not set up for that. ESPN3 delivers that infrastructure. So things that's going to give us national prominence, national recognition, we can invest in making that something that can go out. And keep in mind, there are two platforms on this ESPN3 piece as well. All of the games that are going to be rebroadcasted on ESPNU, ESPN will actually pay the majority of those costs. They will bring their trucks in. They will do all of that. All of the others that are showing up on ESPN3, that's the Southwestern Athletic Conference producing it and delivering it to ESPN itself.
Okay, okay. Now, when you say the Southwestern Athletic Conference producing it, that particular host university would be the one putting on that production?
No, the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
Oh, okay, very good, very good. Well, as I said, the Jeffersons moving on up then. That's
Absolutely.
all. Yes, sir. Now,
we're developing our own network, essentially, is what we're doing.
That will be featured on the ESPN3 platform, though, right?
Yes, at this point. And actually some in the future, if we can get it up to the standard, they could possibly, I won't say that as a guarantee, but could possibly pick it up on other platforms. But we have to get it to a certain point.
Right.
And that's the only reason why they picked it up on ESPN3, because we went away from the SWAC Digital Network production and invested into a fuller production to be able to deliver the content that's of the quality and as of the reliability that ESPN requires.
Right, because from my understanding, ESPN has certain specs that they want the partners to rise up to in order for it to even be considered presentable on their platform.
Absolutely. That's absolutely correct.
Okay, very good. We're talking with the lead man of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, Dr. Charles McClelland. The Southwestern Athletic Conference for the 40th year has been recognized as the leading attendance throughout FCS football. Congratulations yet again, averaging over 12,000 fans per contest. My question for that is, that is number one, a statement of itself on how effective this brand is.
Absolutely.
And my next question is, where is it showing up or not showing up in the books as far as across the board as far as attendance? Because it seemed like a lot of the people, or well, not people, but administrators of the respective schools say we need the people to come out more. And so I guess for outside looking in, where's the result, the bottom line, I guess, with the box office and the attendance?
Well, I'm not quite sure if I can answer that question because I don't get opportunity to see, the receipts and the box office from individual schools. The one thing that I can tell you is that through all of the ups and downs, our brand has remained strong. And I go back to, the days of I guess you could go back to the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. I grew up in the 80s, in the 90s. But, to go to a SWAC football game is, a pretty prestigious event. And we put them on week in, week out at, cities throughout the Southwestern and Southeastern United States. And our brand is vastly different than any other brand in collegiate football. And we're extremely competitive. There are going to be some things that we're going to do to continue to raise that overall level of competitiveness. And we've talked about some of that in the past. But, our brand has been strong and continues to be strong. But to lead FCS is not just what we want to do. We want to get attendance up across the board. Just imagine if all of our games are very well attended, where we could be and the impact that could have on our athletics program. So although we've led it, for 4 decades, there's still work to be done to increase the brand, to increase the ability to get attendance. And in my opinion, the Celebration Bowl has done more to help us in that regard than any other thing within the past 5 to 6 years. ABC, true bowl game payout, bowl game experience. That game is ranked. I think it's 19th. I could be wrong. It's either 18th or 19th out of all of the bowl games. And then when you take out the New Year's Eve and those games, I think we're in the top 5. So there are a lot of eyeballs. There's a lot of interest. So if you're a student athlete and you're choosing between the Southwestern Athletic Conference and another mid-major conference, hey, I might as well go to the SWAC. I get opportunity to play on national TV. I get opportunity to win a bowl. And if I'm Titus Howard from Alabama State, I get opportunity to be drafted in the first round. When you look at the number of 3-star recruits that all 10-member institutions signed this year, it's a record number. My opinion is that brand is starting to get stronger. We're on ESPN. We're on ABC. We have a Celebration Bowl. All of the things and all of the boxes that you want to check, you can check within the Southwestern Athletic Conference. And by the way, you can graduate and get a quality education. So that attendance is tied into a lot of other things. So it's not just, again, people coming out and having fun. It leads to television, it leads to brand, it leads to sponsorship, which ultimately leads to getting money back to the school. So we're trying to connect all of those dots, trying to connect all of those pieces. So leading FCS in attendance is great, but, when you go to the Magic City Classic, when you go to the Bayou Classic, we have more people there, the State Fair Classic, and all of us have those classics. Jackson Southern, Jackson Grambling, those games, Southern Jack, you can go on and on. There are more people in those games than some FBS institutions, stadiums can hold. So we're unique. But there are some games where we have 2,500 people there. So there's work to be done. But if we can increase it, that means more money that comes back to the member institution.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, when you talk about across the board, you being the commissioner, are you putting in your crystal ball of the future some mandates that are going to be required to kind of raise the standards across the board for certain events such as football games and even televised games?
Well, any and everything that we do is going to be a collaborative effort. There are some things that we will put as minimum thresholds, but we have to raise our overall ranking in football, and there's some things that we can do to help schools move along. We don't want to hit schools upside the head and say, you're going to have to do this. That's not how this administration is going to lead. But we're going to do it as a collaborative effort. But I think everybody is on board to be able to help us move the conference forward. And again, we talked about this previously. The Celebration Bowl unequivocally has 100% of our attention. That's our bowl game. That's what we've concentrated on, and that's where we're going to continue to put our assets and resources. But if we can raise the overall brand and profile of our football teams, if somebody does not make it to the Celebration Bowl, have the resume to get into the FCS playoffs, we need to put them in position to be able to go to the FCS playoffs. I talked about one of the instances there at Prairie View. I think it was Willie Simmons last year where he had a real good year, lost to Grambling, couldn't go to the championship game, but Prairie View thought they were going to the FCS playoffs, but they didn't have the minimum criteria to go. So doing some different things within the conference office from a scheduling standpoint and things of that nature, we can put Prairie View in position to be able to get that bid. So that's ultimately what we're trying to accomplish here.
Right. That was actually Simmons' first year. I gave him a hard time about that just the other week on an interview. I said, if you hadn't played that University of Faith game, man, we could have made the playoff. Right. So when we're talking about the standards and like the Power 5 schools right now, they've let it be known that soon some of these quote-unquote money games are going to be fading out. If you don't meet a certain standard, we're not going to even invite you to step on the field. Is that the direction that the SWAC is headed in?
No, not necessarily. I think there's enough money out there for schools to play. I'm not a real big proponent, and I think you can go back and look at my track record when I was at Prairie View and Texas Southern. I don't want to go play Alabama. I don't want to go play Auburn. I don't want to go play, Texas and Texas A&M. Although those game guarantees are, enormous. There are schools such as Prairie View. You have a relationship with Texas A&M. I understand that. Here in Alabama, there are relationships. But, across the board, playing 2 or 3 of those schools, every year or at least one every year, something that I personally don't necessarily buy into. But I think you can get your money and still achieve the goals that the conference would like for you to achieve. And I think that's the plan that we're working on. Not taking away your ability to go get your money, but doing it in a format and a fashion that won't necessarily hinder you or hinder the conference from being able to achieve the goals.
Right. And the point I was making reference of as far as setting the standards of SWAC schools bringing in teams of substandard quality. That's what I was referring to.
Yes, that's definitely something that we're going to have to address in the future. We didn't want to just, shock the system. When you go on a diet, you can't take diet supplements and stop eating and start exercising at the same time. You got to introduce them in phases so you won't shock your body. And I think we're going to take that same approach.
Look,
here.
Man, this is a family show. You can't be using profanity like diets and stuff on this program.
I know that's right.
No, man, we're appreciating you giving us the time right here. The future is looking great for the conference. And one thing about being in a position of leadership, you can't be all things to all people. There are going to be some decisions that you make that people are going to agree with. There are going to be some they're going to say, well, what were they thinking about? And that's part of it. And I appreciate the fact that you say, hey, this is why we do what we do and the logic behind it. And then once the facts have been presented, a person can then either continue to agree or disagree or get on board, but it's not going to stop the SWAC train from moving.
Well, that's absolutely true. The thing that I learned very early is that there are 10 schools and there are 10 different opinions. So what might be outstanding for one school, another school might look at, and quite frankly, it might not necessarily be the best thing for their institution. So what we have to do is look at it from a holistic standpoint to be able to try to move the conference forward. And I actually applaud and appreciate and am open to criticism. There's been a lot of criticism that I've taken that I've been able to learn from and make better decisions and or adjust decisions. Every decision that I make, sometimes, Mike, I come back and say, that was a dumb decision. I don't agree with everything that I do. But that's what criticisms are for, is
right.
For you to take a critical look at some things that you might not have considered. As we make these decisions, we try to consider every aspect, but that's virtually impossible. So as we look, as we read, as we get the feedback, it helps us grow. It helps us to get stronger. But I've learned, very clearly, with 10-member institutions, the system is just not set up that way. When I talked with Greg Sankey, the commissioner from the SEC, he had the same issue. When I talked to Dennis Thomas from the MEAC, he had the same issue. When I talked to Judy McLeod with the Conference USA, she had the same issue. When I talked to Larry Scott, the commissioner from the Pac-12, he had the same issue. Saying that to say it's synonymous throughout the 32 conferences that different areas, different groups have different goals and objectives and policies and traditions and all of that. What you try to do is what's best for the conference, and you try to be all inclusive, right? So if I missed you in the television package this time, look forward to being in the television package next time. We get that. We understand that. But you have to do your part as well. Don't get mad at me because I made a decision predicated on something that might not necessarily be beneficial for all 10. And I guess I shouldn't say don't get mad at you. You can be mad at me. I can understand that. At Texas Southern, that's part of being an athletics director. That's part of being a commissioner. That's part of being an administrator. So we're going to keep pushing forward for the betterment of the conference. But I can tell you overwhelmingly, the presidents have been behind us unanimously, the athletic directors unanimously, the SWAs unanimously, and probably the most difficult group, the fan base, overwhelmingly majority have been behind. And we've tried to do focus groups. We try to reach back out. We do these types of interviews so people can understand where we're going. We get feedback. We get emails. We get calls. We take them all into consideration because that's what effective leadership is supposed to do. Because at the end of the day, this is about the fans, the student athletes, and the institutions, and we're here to do what's best for them.
Man, you don't know how refreshing that is to hear that from a media's point of view, because as soon as you have an investigative moment, people automatically get on the defensive to think that you're out to get an aha moment. But there are a lot of questions that people do not have answers to, and they look upon us in that media that have the finger on the pulse of this conference to get the answers. And people will take it personal. And I've learned about the Q-tip. You know about the Q-tip, right?
What's that?
The Q-tip. You take it, you use it to clean out your ears or whatnot. You've used a Q-tip before, I'm sure, right, in your lifetime?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure you've seen where the Q-tip has some stuff that came out of you, and you said, wow, I didn't know that was in me. But you look at it, you study it, and then you discard that Q-tip, right?
Right.
Now, you're economically conscious, but I don't think you've ever had to get so low yet to go back and reach and get a used Q-tip out of the trash can, did you?
Sometimes.
But the whole problem, the whole situation is, or the explanation is this. You spell Q-tip Q-T-I-P, and it stands for quit taking it personal.
Right.
You happen to be in the driver's seat. You're the leader. And of course stuff is going to hit you when stuff goes good. Now, I'm not saying you in particular, but in general, you got your chest out. I'm the leader. I'm the man. I'm the woman. Well, don't take it personal when criticism has to come in that same direction.
Well, I think that's a great analogy, but I learned it at Prairie View. And I tell you this story. I know we're kind of shifting a little bit, but just from a little historical standpoint. When I was at Prairie View, I got hired in 2001. And I can always go back and say that because I got hired maybe 3 or 4 days, about a month before September 11th happened. So I remember, that whole process. And as you remember, our football team was down, basketball team was down, baseball, Prairie View was pretty bad. We still own, but at that time was still in the midst of the longest losing streak. The basketball team had not won a championship since the Elmo Beatty days. Baseball had never won a championship, had never even had a winning season. And you could go on. And I remember bringing Jerome Francis in, and I remember winning that championship. And I just remember the elation, the jubilation. I could go to the local restaurant and say, hey, come on in, Charles. Don't even worry about it. You want extra food. Don't even worry about it. The next year, I don't even think that we had a winning record. And the same people that were hoisting me up, wanted me to get a contract extension, was calling for me to get fired. And these were my people. These were the people that raised me. And I took it personal because it was Prairie View. It was my school. I'm working hard. They're creating these blogs, and I call his name, my man Lonnie Davis. Shout out to Lonnie. I talk to him all the time now. Lonnie tries to take credit for it. Lonnie said, had he not been on my behind, I would have been not as focused.
He does listen. He does listen too.
There's a lot of truth to that because I'd be doggone if I was going to fail. I wasn't going to let Lonnie Davis and Charles Swindell be right. But it went up and it went down. And then we hired Cynthia, it went up again, and then something else happened and went down. And I learned then very clearly, one, this thing in person, and two, don't get too high on yourself and don't get too low on yourself, because if you stay around long enough, you're going to have some successes and you're going to have some failures. But you have to use them both equally to fuel your ability to get the job done. So I go back to my early formative years in athletic administration at Prairie View, and I learned that. I don't take it personal because I understand that everybody is vested and everybody ultimately wants what they want, and that is a clean, solid, competitive program. And that's what I'm here. At Prairie View, I had one. At Texas Southern, I have one. Here at the SWAC, I have 10. And the decisions that I make now has to be in the best interest of all 10. So, and that's what our focus is, and that's what our focus will continue to be. So I won't take it personal. I'll answer your questions in good and bad. The only thing that I ask for the media is fair reporting. I'll talk to you in bad times just the same way that I'll talk to you in good times, because, again, it's important for us to get that message out. It's important for us to be able to tell everybody what we were thinking when we did what we did. And if we come back and it turns out that we're idiots, then it's a lot easier to see when you put it out there as well. Hey, you're an idiot. Don't do that anymore, Charles. So I've been like that ever since 2001, the only way that I know to be, and I will continue to be that way. So I've had criticism. I take those criticisms. Sometimes they hurt my feelings, right? But I do understand that at the end of the day, it's not personal. So I'm a prescribed by the Prince Q-tip philosophy. I'm going to quit taking it personal.
Quit taking it personal. It sounds like a man who has, as say, arrived on his journey, man, and it is always awesome to hear and good to see. Dr. Charles McClelland, the Southwestern Athletic Conference Commissioner, just about to round the bend for his full year of service and duty, and off to a great start, sir. I thank you for the time and opportunity to get a chance to chat with you and catch up on some things. Customarily here on the Mike Prince Show, we want to give you an opportunity to have some closing thoughts and comments, and the floor is now yours.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for continuing to hang in there with us. We're going to work hard. We're going to work diligently to move this conference to a higher state each and every year. We got some more press releases that are going to come out this summer about some of the agreements that we're making that's going to strengthen this conference. And just want to thank everybody for listening, and want to thank Mike for having me on his show.
Well, sir, we thank you. He is Dr. Charles McClelland. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. Remember that you can follow us on our social media handles on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Mike Prince Show. We are also available on the YouTube channel at Open Mic Broadcast Network, and our website, obnradio.com, and the 24-hour dial-in message line, 713-570-6736. And until the next time, you guys be blessed, and we'll see you on the other side.